Welcome back to another Counter-Strike Go edition of our esports breakdown here at Fantasy Sports Insight. We have another 3-match slate ahead of us tomorrow with some interesting results today. If you didn't get a chance to watch C9 coming back and beating Evil Geniuses, we had FaZe beating Godsent 2-1. That match was pretty interesting, with Godsent adding in Farlig, while FaZe subbing out Olafmeister, who's taking a break for Bymus. And I think Spirit beating Fnatic 2-0 was not really that shocking. If you think about Fnatic's last map at Road to Rio against Movie Stars, they lost 16-2 at Inferno, one of their best maps. So I think they are not in a great place right now, but I think just like any sports, there's always that bounce back, that positive regression. And I think coming in tomorrow as the biggest favorite, I still think they should garner some ownership, even against Godsent, who probably will look a little bit better, as they did throughout today's matchup, just based on Farley getting comfortable. He played really well later in the map, and actually I think was the only player that came out positive in kill of death in that matchup. So for Godsent, that is. So let's kind of dive right in, and we start out with FaZe and Spirit. And Spirit took it to Fnatic, like I said, 2-0. And now they take on FaZe. And you can even see just in the pricing here, the top 4 players priced are FaZe. Now, I think Rain is way too expensive, and I think that was just based off his performance today. Coldzera actually dropped, and Brokey kind of flip-flop, which I think was maybe more appropriate pricing where I would have ranked them before. But Coldzera today went 71-45, which we obviously cannot expect that to repeat. But I do think both of them are definitely in play, along with Nico at 10,000, if you are able to find enough value, which I think there is. FaZe comes in as a -200 favorite here. So I do think if you want to take a chance on a couple of Spirit guys, I think that's viable. Murr at 7,200. Again, it's just too cheap for his price tag, even being a slight underdog. Chopper played really well today, but I do prefer Idis Balance and Sumdai Young over him. And then we have Bymus at 5,000. I think is a viable punt. He went 49-48 today. I think had they just swept, probably would have really paid off his price tag. I still think at that rate, you probably were okay with the results. But it definitely, he's not going to be taking a market share of any of the kills when you have guys like Nico, Brokey, and Coldzera at the top. So I think when you start looking at pricing, I think Coldzera at 8,400, that discount to Brokey, I don't think you could play all 3. So now that Coldzera is a little bit cheaper, I do think that you're probably making a decision between those 2 players, especially if you're playing Nico, which Nico is not as much of a priority for me on this slate. For the fact that they're not that big of a favorite, and Spirit's been playing really well. So I would probably look closer to Coldzera or Brokey. And then if you really want to punt with Bymus, you can. Otherwise, I think the Spirit cheap guys are definitely viable, like Idis Balance and Sumdai Young, even Murr at 7,200. So I think when you're building to tonight or tomorrow, just don't just plug in FaZe because they are FaZe. They're playing a Spirit team that is playing really well, and they're not really that big of a favorite. So let's move into our other games, and then when we kind of circle back to kind of feel where we are at on a whole slate perspective. So let's go to Godsent and Fnatic. Fnatic coming in as the biggest favorite, -345 right now. Will definitely garner ownership, even though they haven't looked very good the last 2 matchups. I think when I looked even back at the stats today, every player for Fnatic ended negative in the kill to death ratio, while every Spirit player was positive. So that's sometimes like if you feel really confident about a 2-0, especially a team like Spirit, where the kills do get kind of spread out a little bit more. Magist or Magix at was their cheapest player, played really well today. Not somebody you normally would target, but played really well. So if you really would have expected them to 2-0, he would have certainly met value at that price tag. So now we get Godsent, Farlig at 8,000, a little bit cheaper than he was today, probably because he's a bigger underdog today or tomorrow. Madden at 6,600, Zen at 6,600, and Styko 62. I do really like Styko as a one-off here, even as an underdog. Pretty cheap price tag. If you're going a little bit against the grain, again, I think in cash, you still really try to stick to the favorites as much as possible. JW, a little bit more expensive than I was hoping. I think now he's too close to Crims, and Crims actually played the best of the team today. So I would prefer Crims over JW there. And Brawlin's price coming down, even though being a bigger favorite, is also appealing for Brawlin and Flusha. Both are viable cash options, and I think both will have some decent ownership. Golden played okay today, but they all played pretty bad. I don't usually consider Golden, even in a sweeping scenario. He just seems to be so far off of the margin that I am looking for in a punt. So let's move into our last game, which should be the most competitive based on the odds. We have Gen G and 100 Thieves. My favorite play from this game right off the bat is JKS for 100 Thieves. If we kind of go to some of their statistics here, this is when this lineup has played together over the last 248 maps. JKS is by far the best player. It's not even close. A plus 685 kill differential with this lineup. J Keem at 141 and Gratisfaction at -2. That doesn't mean that necessarily J Keem's going to outperform Gratisfaction tomorrow, but I think as a whole, you see your obvious two fades. And then I think JKS is one of the best plays on the slate, just because it is expected to be a close matchup. He could definitely he's a player that if he gets the third map, he's likely averaging more than 15 points a game, or per map. And at 7,200, it's just brutally cheap. So that is one of my favorite plays of the slate. Automatic. Gen G's got a little bit smaller sample size with their lineup, and I think it's a little bit closer. We got BNT, BNTET, Kusta, some Daps, and Automatic. Daps is clearly a fade in this situation. I really like Kusta for his price and Automatic. Those would kind of be my targets here. Kusta at 7,000, Automatic at 7,400. Now, I think you do have to kind of consider when you play players against each other, it does negatively correlate. So if you're looking for an optimal build, that's not always the best way to do it. It's better to take a stand on which team you really think is going to perform better as a team, even though individual players can outperform in losses or in matchups against your own players. But this game is right now at Gen G at -130. So if you're going to the favorite side, I'd start with Automatic and Kusta and BNTET, however you pronounce that great name. But if you are looking at the 100 Thieves side, or if you don't have a good feel of it all, JKS is my favorite play from this matchup. So I think when we look back at the whole slate perspective, I think the top of the phase is a little bit harder to get to just based on the matchup against Spirit. I would probably rather start my lineup with somebody like Brawlin, and then also really look towards JKS. That's kind of where I really like to start. And also with Fnatic, if I'm feeling comfortable with playing another one, I like the price tag of Crims. If I have the salary get up to Flusha, I think Flusha's floor is probably a little bit higher just based on recent form. But I do think that there's definitely enough value down here. If I'm going to play JKS, I likely will also be playing J Keem, kind of to pair those up. If I go the other route, and maybe you can do this in multiple lineup builds, I may go Automatic and Kusta in order to leverage some ownership against 100 Thieves. But my favorite targets are going to be in cash games, Fnatic, and then really looking to what side you like from Gen G and 100 Thieves. If you are looking to play somebody from FaZe, I think you either bite the price tag at 10,000 for Nico, probably get to Coldzera, even though I think he's overpriced still at 8,400, but I also think Brokey is too expensive. You could just clearly just punt with Bimus too and just hope for some upside. But my issue with this is his upside is so much lower at 5,000 than if you think, say, Spirit has a chance against FaZe or is pretty competitive. Some Young has far more upside. Steicho has far more upside, and they're a little bit worse of a matchup. This balance far more upside. So I know they're a lot more expensive, but you do need to think about that when you start considering what you want your return on value to be from some of these players, depending on how you're building your lineups. So I think that would be a great place to start. Again, cash games continue to be popular with the 2-2-2, meaning 2 players from every favorite, or a 3-3. In this case, tomorrow I do see 3-3 maybe being a little bit more popular. You probably would have to punt with your captain spot just because the price tags on phase is so expensive. But I do think there's merit tomorrow to getting a couple players from whatever side you feel more comfortable with between Gen G and 100 Thieves. All right, you can check us out at fsidfs.com. We have a free esports Discord channel right now that we are posting core plays for every slate, and for League of Legends, Call of Duty, Rocket League, anything you could imagine. You'll find our link here in the comment below. Give us a like and subscribe. I hope you come back.